Gentleman yields. The chair now recognizes the gentlelady from Texas, Ms. Crockett.
Thank you so much. It's interesting that we're being accused of wanting all kinds of criminals to be on the streets, or that we don't believe that people should show up to their meetings and appointments. Last time I checked, there's a lot of people that are actually being grabbed as they are going in for their appointments. In fact, we know that one of the candidates that was recently running in this mayoral, he ended up being arrested because he decided that he was actually going to escort people that are actually showing up to their meetings. Or we know that the Pope, yes, the Pope himself, decided that the church may need to have people that are going to escort people as they're going into their meetings. Because the reality is that what they are claiming what they want to do versus what they're actually doing, the actions don't match up. And while we are supposed to be talking about visas, somehow we continue to cherry pick and talk about one criminal act and another criminal act. And it is so very interesting to me that, yes, we will say people are xenophobic, because when you start to decide that just because somebody came from another country, they are automatically some kind of criminal, that does sound kind of xenophobic to me, because you are using a paintbrush to paint an entire group of people where the vast majority of them are coming here because they are actually seeking a better life. But let me get to what this hearing is supposed to be about. The idea that Trump and my Republican colleagues want to restore integrity and security in the visa process is actually a joke. Let me be clear. Integrity is not snatching lawful visa holders off the streets and throwing them into unmarked vans. Integrity is not revoking visas based on social media posts that hurt somebody's little feelings because kids decide that they want to go after Trump or this administration. We have a thing called free speech in this country. And since we're talking about integrity, I'm confused as to why my Republican colleagues aren't talking about the lack of integrity when it comes to the president's family's visas. Let me remind y'all that Melania, the first lady, a model, and when I say model, I'm not talking about Tyra Banks, Cindy Crawford, or Naomi Campbell level, applied for and was given an EB-1 visa. And what that stands for is an Einstein visa. Now, y'all that don't know, let me tell you how you receive an Einstein visa. You're supposed to have some sort of significant achievement, like being awarded a Nobel Peace Prize or a Pulitzer, being an Olympic medalist, or having other sustained extraordinary abilities and success in sciences, arts, education, business, or athletics. Last time I checked, the First Lady had none of those accolades under her belt. It doesn't take an Einstein to see that the math ain't mathin' here. Nevertheless, what Republicans are doing with this reconciliation process, the travel bans and revoking visas, jeopardizes our national security. It threatens our communities, our higher education, and our economy. Visas like the largely vetted J visas for higher education and M visas for trade, training, attract the next innovators, medical providers, researchers, and educators that we need to build on American success. I'm not gonna mess up your name, so I'm not doing that. But I'm with you, okay? In your experience, do individuals on J or M visas typically improve or impair our economy?
They generally improve the economy, and I can give a brief example. My wife is a very successful woman. She makes a ton of money, which I'm grateful for. And the reason why we're able to do that while having 3 children is because of the au pair visa, somebody who is here on a J. Okay. Who is here and able to supply this for us. But I also want to defend Melania real quick. Not everybody could marry Donald Trump, and I think that's quite an achievement. So I think she deserves credit for that. Nobody up here could have done it.
You sure right, I couldn't do it. But anyway, in fact, J visa holders contribute $43.8 billion to the U.S. economy and support more than 300,000 jobs. And make no mistake, immigrants improve the health of U.S. citizens too. Despite the fact we already have a doctor shortage, Trump's reckless travel ban and visa overhaul are exacerbating this crisis by impairing hundreds of hospitals with foreign-trained doctors set to do their residencies here in the United States, meaning fewer people will get the help they need and more people will die. Now, let me remind you that Republicans are trying to gut Medicaid. Roughly 4.5 million people receive caregiver services through Medicaid, and most of these folks are in red states. And wouldn't you know that in 2023, Kaiser Family Foundation estimated that almost 30% of long-term care providers or home caretakers were immigrants. It's like Republicans want Americans to suffer. Now, Republicans say visas make us less secure, but let's talk about how visas given to victims of crimes like rape, murder, human trafficking, torture, abduction, kidnapping, to help law enforcement with their investigation or prosecutions of these crimes. These folks are risking their own security for broader safety of Americans and our communities. Thank you so much. I will yield.
Gentlelady yields, and Chair now recognizes himself.
Thank you, Chair Collins and Vice Chair Murray. I want to echo something that my colleagues have talked a lot about. Like many members on the Appropriations Committee, I work with Democrats and Republicans alike and work hard on bipartisan compromises my entire Senate career. I serve on the Armed Services Committee, I serve on the Intel Committee, I serve on the Special Committee on Aging, all deeply bipartisan committees. I asked to be joined to this committee because it had a history of bipartisanship, of Democrats and Republicans looking across the country at our constituents and saying, of all the tax dollars you send to Washington, what is most important to you? You just heard from Senator Ossoff. The CDC is vital to his state. It's vital to all of us because it protects us from disease. But we ask our members of Congress to listen to their constituents through town halls, through town meetings, through just normal interactions about what resources they need spent. But what this rescission package is you are taking away the job of elected representatives to make the judgments in the Appropriations Committee about where federal dollars should go. It's literally upending the role that Congress has as the power of the purse. And it's deeply disturbing because it means the fundamental requests of our constituents can't be implemented. I've seen it in many things I've worked on. Simple things like the Cyber Academy to make sure our best and brightest come work for the federal government in our intelligence services, in the DOD. And we say to these young people, we will pay for your education if you serve. Well, these hiring freezes and these cuts in funding mean that none of these kids who have already gone through the training program can't get hired. We see it in the funding cuts for cybersecurity. So when we just are concerned about foreign adversaries hacking our elections and we hire people at Homeland Security and we hire people at the FBI and we hire people at the DOD and they all get fired, it undermines congressional will. We sit in hearings all day long, learning specifics about national security, about food security, about health and human well-being. And then we make sure when we decide where resources should go, that that's the best judgment. And we do it on a bipartisan basis, always. We have always done this on a bipartisan basis. So you could understand why people are so distressed about this rescission package, because it takes away the job that our constituents have asked us, not you, to do. So with that, I want to turn to some of the specific cuts. I have many, many areas of interest.
Can I respond to that, Senator?
Yes, go ahead.
This bill gives you the vote to pass or not pass the rescissions package. They're not taking anything away from you. In the same way the Congressional Budget Act says that appropriations bills should be started and done by a certain period of time, it outlines the Impoundment Control Act that allows you to vote for it or not vote for it.
That's an absurdity. It's an absolute absurdity because that's not the way it's supposed to work. You, as the administration, is not supposed to pick and choose the work that we've already done. We have the power of the purse. I will be voting no on this rescissions package. It's the most obvious no vote that my constituents would like me to make. And I don't know why more Republicans aren't standing up to President Trump and these very ill-advised decisions he's making, because it's harming their constituents. It's harming the people they represent. So when they choose to vote yes on this rescissions package, woe be to them for their constituents, because their constituents will be the first in line to tell them how they've been harmed. So I'm going to ask you for just a few pieces of area where this rescission package is going to be deeply, deeply felt. Let's look at national security. The rescissions package rescinds $1.65 billion in funding for the Economic Support Fund, which provides U.S. economic assistance that promotes cooperation, coexistence, and border regional integration initiatives that align with the objectives of the Abraham Accords and U.S. strategic interests. Given U.S. strategic and global interests in this region, how do you assess the impact of these cuts on the stability of Israel's neighbor and the broader Abraham Accords framework?
It will have no impact on the Abraham Accords. It will have no impact on Israel. It will have an impact on $4 million for sedentary migrants in Colombia, $300,000 for an NGO to hold a pride parade in Lesotho, $3 million for Iraqi Sesame Street, on and on, with that particular rescission that you were referring to.
I don't believe that's true. In fact, the purpose of the Abraham Accords investment is to make sure that we do economic growth with the support of Israel in Arab countries. And you are undermining that by eliminating $1.65 billion. And the three things you just mentioned do not add up to $1.65 billion. Let's look at global assistance and development. The proposed rescission package will cut economic development assistance and funding for multiple accounts. How does gutting these programs enhance American influence, beat back Chinese influence, the Belt and Road Initiative that projects their power worldwide, and ensure that Americans win hearts and minds globally?
No, Senator, we just covered economic assistance. Let's cover development assistance. $6.2 million to address the needs of Venezuela migrants in Colombia, $6 million for net zero cities in Mexico, $4.4 million for low emissions energy in Vietnam. Again, with every single one of these
So when you're not investing in energy in Vietnam, do you know who does? Russia. Russia has its agents all across Vietnam. You know who else? China. So when they project their power worldwide, it makes us less safe. Let's do biosurveillance and global health.
The senator's time has expired.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I will submit these questions for the record.
Thank you.